Never trust a job you find online, especially one that says you can work at night from home. Something's off when they pay too well, keep secrets, and never ask to see your face. You think it's just easy money, until you realize you're not alone in the dark. Think about it. A job where you just sit in front of your screen at night, do a few tasks, and get a nice paycheck. No commuting, no bosses breathing down your neck, no dress code. It sounds perfect, right? That's what I thought too. But when that first assignment came in, something felt strange. It started with a few emails, then some odd instructions, and soon I was knee-deep in the kind of fear that leaves you sweating at dawn. Let's dive into how a simple night gig turned into the most disturbing experience of my life. It began on a Monday evening. I was at home, scrolling through job boards. Most listings were the same old thing: part-time shifts at local stores, long hours at warehouses, random remote customer service roles that made me want to run the other way. Then, I saw this listing. Overnight data monitoring, work from home, no experience required. The pay was more than double minimum wage. The description was short and a bit vague. It said something about observing data streams, making sure no errors occurred, and reporting anything unusual. It promised flexible hours, no direct supervisor hassling me in real time, and quick money. I needed cash, and I didn't feel like dealing with people. This seemed like a sweet deal. They didn't even need a video interview. Just a quick email exchange, some agreement to keep confidentiality, and boom, I was hired. They told me to start that night at midnight. Perfect, I thought. I'm a night owl anyway. At 11:45 p.m., I sat down in front of my computer with a cup of cheap coffee. I checked my email. They'd sent me a simple login, a strange URL, and a password. I clicked the link, typed in the password. The site was plain, just a black screen with white text. A small window appeared. Monitoring session number 1, please wait. I waited, sipping my coffee, feeling both excited and a bit weirded out by the whole setup. When midnight hit, the screen flickered and 4 video feeds popped up. Each feed seemed to be some kind of security camera footage. They were all indoors, in small rooms with dim lighting. Each camera showed an empty space, bare walls, a chair or table here and there. Nothing special. My instructions said I should watch these feeds, note any irregularities in a log, and hit the alert button if something strange happened. That was it. The first night was quiet. I watched those empty rooms for hours. Around 3 a.m., I saw a slight flicker on one feed, but it could have been a glitch. By sunrise, I had nothing unusual to report. The job paid well for doing almost nothing. I felt lucky. But on the second night, everything changed. Night 2 started off the same way. I sat down, logged in, and pulled up the feeds. The same 4 rooms. This time, I noticed something small. In the top left feed, there was a new object in the room, a small box on the floor. I didn't see it the night before. The instructions said I should report unusual objects, but a box didn't seem dangerous. It could be a normal change in the monitored area. I wrote it down in my log anyway. Around 2 a.m., I saw movement. It came from the bottom right feed. At first, it was just a shadow sliding along the wall. I leaned closer to my screen, trying to see if it was a trick of the light. Then I saw something like a hand pressed against the far wall. I thought maybe someone was in that room now. Maybe a guard or a maintenance person. I checked the instructions. No mention of people being around. I hovered over the alert button but held back. I didn't want to hit it too soon and seem like I was overreacting. The hand slowly pulled back. It was pale, almost gray. The rest of the body never came into full view. The hand slipped back into darkness, leaving me staring at an empty room again. The feeds had no audio, so I couldn't hear anything. I waited, heart beating faster, eyes glued to the screen, but nothing else happened. The rest of the night was quiet. I wrote a note. 2:13 a.m., unknown hand, seen in bottom right feed. I still didn't hit the alert button. I told myself I might have imagined it. The third night, I had trouble even sitting down at my desk. But the money was good and I was curious. I logged in again. The top left feed where I saw the box now had something else. The box was open, and inside was a small doll. An old, ragged doll with a broken face. The camera quality wasn't great, but I could see its little painted eyes cracked and fading. That was definitely strange. I wrote it down. Suddenly, at around 1:45 a.m., all 4 feeds went black for a second. Then they came back on. Now each room had something different. The top right feed had a table now, and on the table was what looked like a stack of papers. The bottom left feed showed a door that was slightly ajar. Yesterday that door was closed. The bottom right feed, where I'd seen the hand, showed something on the floor. Maybe a piece of clothing? I had too many questions and no answers. I hovered over the alert button again. This time I clicked it. Immediately I got a message in the chat box. Note logged. Continue monitoring. That was it. No explanation. Time passed slowly. At around 3 a.m. I saw it again. That pale hand. It slid into view in the bottom right feed, pressed against the wall, then vanished. But this time I noticed something else. In the top left feed, the doll's head turned slightly, like it was looking straight at the camera. I couldn't believe my eyes. My skin crawled. By the 4th night, I was on edge. I didn't understand what I was watching. Were these rooms real? Were these live feeds or pre-recorded videos? My pay came through after the 3rd night, so at least it wasn't a scam. I got actual money in my account. That made it even stranger. Who pays someone to watch empty rooms with creepy stuff appearing at random? On night 4, I saw a figure. It appeared first in the top right feed. A tall shape standing against the far wall, so tall that the head almost touched the ceiling. It didn't move, just stood there. The shape was dark, and I couldn't make out details. I hit the alert button right away. No response from whoever was on the other end. The figure vanished when I blinked. 1 second it was there, next second it was gone. Then I saw the doll again in the top left feed. The doll was no longer in the box. It was standing now, propped up against the wall, its head tilted. The eyes seemed to glow faintly. I swear, I could almost feel it staring back at me through the screen. In the bottom left feed, the door that was ajar opened wider. Behind it was only darkness. The bottom right feed showed something moving fast across the room floor. It was too blurry to understand what it was. I wrote everything down, my fingers shaking. When I ended my shift, I got an email. Good work. Keep watching. Do not ask questions. That was it. No signature, no explanation. Night 5 rolled around, and this time I was anxious. My apartment was quiet. Outside, the city slept. I turned off all the lights so I could see the screens better. The 4 feeds loaded up. Silence. Then I noticed something chilling. In the top left feed, the doll was gone. In its place was a small note pinned to the wall. I leaned in closer, trying to read it. The camera resolution made it tough, but I could make out a few letters. It looked like it spelled my name. But that couldn't be right. Why would my name be there? In the top right feed, the table had more papers now. They were spread out as if someone had rifled through them. Some pages were torn. In the bottom left feed, the open door revealed what looked like stairs going down into a basement. I hadn't seen that before. In the bottom right feed, I saw the pale hand again, this time reaching out and leaving a dark smear on the wall. I clicked the alert button repeatedly. Same response. Note logged. Continue. At 2:30 a.m., the worst thing happened. The top left feed zoomed in by itself. I didn't know these cameras could zoom. Nobody told me I could control them, and I didn't press anything. The camera just zoomed closer to that note on the wall. I could see now it definitely had my name. The letters were shaky, like written by someone with trembling hands. Next to my name, I saw something else. Some numbers. They looked like coordinates, or maybe a date. I felt my heart pounding. Why would they write my name? Then the top right feed flickered. The tall figure appeared again, now closer to the camera. I could almost see a face, but it was distorted, like a mask made of wet cloth. The figure raised a hand and tapped on the camera lens. I nearly jumped out of my chair. Tap, tap, tap. I could only imagine the sound. My hands shook as I wrote it down. In the bottom left feed, something crawled down the stairs. A shape, low to the ground, dragging itself forward. It had long limbs that bent at weird angles. It was heading right toward the camera's point of view, but the feed cut out for a moment, and when it came back, the room was empty again. The bottom right feed now showed that same piece of clothing from before, except now it looked like a hooded cloak, lying crumpled on the floor. I watched as it slowly rose up, as if picked up by invisible hands, and hung itself on a hook that wasn't there before. These changes were driving me insane. I felt like I was watching a haunting in real time. By the 6th night, I tried to quit. I wrote an email. I don't want to continue. Please pay me for the days I worked. No response. My bank account, however, got another deposit. The money was even more this time. They were trying to keep me hooked. Against my better judgment, I logged in again. Curiosity? Fear? Greed? I'm not sure. But I couldn't look away. Tonight, the feeds looked different. Each room was darker than before. The doll had returned in the top left feed, now closer to the camera. Its eyes seemed to have changed. They were no longer painted on. They looked like real eyes, moist and moving. The note on the wall was gone, but I could see scratch marks where it used to be. In the top right feed, the table was overturned. Papers were scattered, and something that looked like a knife was stuck in the wall. I had never seen that knife before. In the bottom left feed, the door and stairs were gone, replaced by a single chair in the center of the room. On that chair sat a figure slumped forward, head hanging low. I waited, holding my breath to see if it would move. It never did. The bottom right feed showed the cloak again, but now it was on a person, or at least something shaped like a person. It stood in the center of the room, facing the camera. Slowly, it raised its hand and waved. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. I hit alert. Same response. Note logged. Continue. Around 3 a.m., things got worse. I started hearing faint whispers. At first, I thought they were in my head. The instructions never said these feeds had sound, and I didn't see any volume controls. Yet I heard something, a soft hiss, like someone breathing against my ear. I pulled off my headphones. Nothing changed. I realized the whispers weren't coming from my headphones. They were coming from my apartment, from behind my chair. I spun around, nothing, just darkness. I turned back to my screen. The figure in the cloak was gone. The doll's eyes were closed now. The slumped figure in the chair lifted its head slightly. I swear it looked a bit like me. The tall figure in the top right feed reappeared, holding a page up to the camera. On that page, I could see a drawing, 4 rooms, 4 cameras, and a face in the corner. My face. Night 7. I had stopped sleeping normally. I kept my lights on except when working. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with unknown numbers calling at odd hours, leaving empty voicemails. I felt watched even outside of this job. My windows were closed, my doors locked, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me from those screens. I considered calling the police, but what would I say? I watch weird cameras at night and I see creepy things. They'd think I was nuts. I tried to track down the company that hired me, but the site I used to find the job was gone. The emails I received had no reply address. I was stuck. On the 7th night, the feeds loaded differently. They all showed the same room now. A long hallway with a single door at the end. I'd never seen this hallway before. It was silent and still. I watched for a long time, waiting for something to happen. At 1:30 a.m., the door at the end of the hallway creaked open. A figure stepped out, tall, thin, and wearing that hooded cloak. It slowly walked toward the camera. Each step felt like it was coming closer to me personally, not just the camera. As it got closer, I saw its face, or the lack of one. The hood covered everything, and underneath I could only see darkness. The figure raised a hand and snapped its fingers. Immediately, the feed split back into 4 feeds, each showing the original rooms. But now, All 4 rooms were empty except for a chair in the center of each. On each chair sat a doll. Each doll looked more human than before. One had long black hair, one had short brown hair, one wore glasses, and one had a scar on its cheek. These dolls were changing into human-like figures, and I had a bad feeling they were copying real people. At 2:45 a.m., I noticed one doll had a name tag pinned to its chest. The name tag had my full name, first and last. I jumped out of my chair, heart pounding. I checked my door's lock, still locked. I looked out the window, empty street. I came back to the screen, and now all 4 dolls had name tags. Mine and 3 others I didn't recognize. I slammed the alert button. Nothing changed. Then the whispers came back, louder this time. I could almost make out words. Watch. Keep watching. I turned around again, sure I would see something in my apartment. Still nothing. But I felt a presence, like something standing behind me just out of sight. I refused to turn my back to the screen again. I kept my eyes forward. At 3:30 a.m., the top left feed showed the doll with my name. It started to move. Its head jerked left, then right. Its arms twitched. Slowly, it tried to stand up from the chair. I leaned in, mouth dry. The doll fell to the floor, then stood back up, now facing the camera. Its eyes opened wide. They looked like human eyes. Then I saw it smile. A twisted grin that stretched too far. The other 3 dolls followed. They stood, faced the cameras, and grinned. I felt like I was losing my mind. I typed in the chat box, "What do you want from me?" No response. The instructions never mentioned chatting back, but I had to try. "Who are you?" I typed. Nothing. Just silence. At around 4 a.m., the feeds flickered again. Now I saw myself. Not my reflection in my screen, but a feed of my own room. The camera angle was from behind me, showing me sitting at my desk looking at the monitors. My blood turned to ice. How were they filming me? I spun around, trying to find a camera. Nothing. Just the darkness of my apartment. But on the screen, I could see myself turning around, confused. I was watching myself in real time, from an angle that didn't exist in my room. This made no sense. The feed zoomed in on my face. I could see every drop of sweat. Then it cut back to the 4 original rooms. Now each room was empty again. No dolls, no figures, no objects, just 4 bare rooms. I looked at the clock. Almost 5 a.m. My shift ended at sunrise. I sat there shaken, waiting for the next horror, but nothing more happened. I ended my shift, closed the browser, and unplugged my computer. I couldn't handle this anymore. But the next night I got another email. "You are doing well. Keep going. More pay has been sent." They weren't letting me quit. Every time I tried to ignore their instructions, my phone rang. When I answered, I heard breathing. When I left my home, I felt eyes on me. I decided I had to find a way out. I considered destroying my computer, but I needed it for other work. Maybe I should move. But the thought of leaving my home at night scared me. I was trapped. I decided on night 8 I would record everything and show someone. I set up my phone to film my screen. Midnight came. I logged in. Black screen. Then the same 4 rooms. Empty. 2 hours passed. Nothing happened. I started to relax, thinking maybe the nightmare ended. But at 2:30 a.m., my phone's flashlight turned on by itself. I picked it up, turned it off, and heard a scraping sound from under my desk. I froze, my eyes stuck on the screen. The bottom right feed showed something crawling on the floor again. It looked up, and this time, it had a face. A face that looked like mine, twisted and distorted. And I screamed and almost knocked my coffee over. I wanted to leave, but I was stuck to my chair, too scared to move. Then the top left feed's camera zoomed in on a spot in the wall. There was a hole there, and inside the hole, I could see an eye. It blinked. I typed, "Why are you doing this?" No answer. At 4 a.m., all 4 feeds changed to show that same hallway with the door at the end. The door opened, and the tall figure in the cloak walked out again. This time, it carried the doll with my name tag. The figure held the doll up to the camera, then snapped its neck. I gasped, covering my mouth. The figure then turned and pointed down the hallway. The feed cut out. When the images returned, I saw only a single word scrawled on the walls of each room. Stay. I hit alert, typed messages, tried to exit, but I was locked in. The browser wouldn't close. My screen froze. The whispers came back, and I felt a hand on my shoulder. Actually felt it, cold and real. I jumped up and turned around. Nothing was there. When I turned back to the screen, it showed a still image of an empty chair. Then it flashed to black. I was able to close the browser. I sat in silence as the sun rose, listening to my own heartbeat. That day, I got a letter under my door. No postage, no address. Inside was a photograph of my desk, taken from behind. On the back it said, "Keep watching or we come closer." I realized that this wasn't just a weird job. These people, or entities, or whatever they were, had full control. They were using me, feeding on my fear. They knew where I lived, what I looked like, and they could get inside my mind. I had two choices: keep watching or run. But run where? I decided I had to keep doing the job. Maybe I could find a clue to break free. Maybe I could learn something on those feeds that would help me stop them. At least I knew the danger was from behind a screen. So, if you ever see a job listing that sounds too easy, too good to be true, think twice. Some jobs don't just want your time and labor. Some jobs want your soul, your sanity, your sleep. I still work this job, trapped in a loop of fear and payment. Every night I see worse things. Dolls turning into people, people turning into shadows, rooms turning into hallways that lead nowhere. Every night I feel that presence behind me, just waiting for me to let my guard down. I don't know how this will end. Maybe I'll find a way out. Maybe I'll become one of those figures in the cameras. Maybe they'll come for me before I can escape. But for now, I'm stuck, watching and waiting, praying that at sunrise I can close my screen and still be me. If you want more stories like this, subscribe.